What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we're going to be going over the top best ball picks 2019. If you're not familiar with best ball, essentially it's this. You make your draft and then you're done. I mean, realistically, the only part of best ball is the draft, so it's hugely important. Make your draft in best ball, and then each week your top scores are counted. So you have your roster, your quarterback, 2 running back, I believe 3 wide receivers typically in best ball. 1 tight end, 1 flex option. So it's like a normal roster, but there's no waiver wire. So what you have to do is, the draft is bigger than a normal draft, but you need to think about upside because you're essentially going to start every single player on your team. So let's say you draft 7 wide receivers, all 7 are started, and then the top 3 count. So what types of players are we targeting under a league of this format? Well, it's just pure upside. You know how everyone complains about certain players, like they dudded this week, certain players go off sometimes and you just can't count them on other weeks? That doesn't matter as much in best ball. In best ball, you don't want the guy who's got 5 receptions, 50 yards every week. You want the guy who can get 102 touchdowns because that's going to win you your league. So this video will essentially be looking at some of the players with the highest upside for best ball. If you don't play best ball, just treat this as a, hey, these guys have a lot of upside and I really like them video. Before we start the video though, we're going to be doing the stat of the day. You guys really liked it last season, so we're going to bring it back this year. So every single day, I'm going to tell you guys a stat. Go down in the comment section, try and answer the stat first, and then I'll tell you guys the answer in the next video, the next day. So today's stat, among running backs with at least 50 carries, who had the highest elusiveness rating? I need the running back and the season. At least 50 carries, highest elusiveness rating, and this is since 2006. Every single stat essentially is going to be since 2006. So give me the name of the player and the season that it happened. And with that, we're gonna start this breakdown. So I'm only going to do running backs and wide receivers in this video. I didn't want to make it too long, and we can talk about quarterbacks and tight ends in the future. And I don't want to just hammer home all the studs. So for running backs, I'm only going to talk about people outside of the top 20 for ADP. For wide receivers, I'm going to talk about a few of the studs just because there are studs that I definitely want to target in best ball. But for running backs, anyone essentially in the top 20 is fair game. If you're going to get volume, you're great for best ball as a running back. But we're going to start with wide receivers, and there are going to be 3 stud wide receivers I'm going to talk about, and then some mid and late guys. So the first 3 guys we're going to talk about: Julio Jones, T.Y. Hilton, Amari Cooper. This basically is to get your minds around what types of players I am targeting in a best ball league. Julio Jones, 49 career games, over 100 receiving yards, 7 career games of 15 or more receptions and 150 plus yards. 60% of his games last season were over 20 fantasy points. That's who I want on my team. So everyone knows Julio Jones is a best ball guy. He can get you 2 points, he can get you 30 points. That's who I want. T.Y. Hilton's another guy I really want. 5 games with 115 plus receiving yards last season. And in fact, 22% of his career games have been 115 or more receiving yards. Does he have less touchdown upside than everyone else? Yes. You have Funchess on the team. You've got 2 tight ends that can catch touchdowns. You've got Paris Campbell, who I wouldn't be concerned about taking a ton of touchdowns, but is going to probably take a few. You've got Marlon Mack, you've got Nyheim Hines. A lot less touchdown upside for T.Y., but he still has massive weekly upside. That's what I'm targeting. Last guy is Amari Cooper, and I want to kind of give my thoughts on Amari Cooper here as well. 4 games with 115 plus receiving yards last season, but also 9 games under 60. So he's kind of like that the Julio Jones mold where he can go off or do absolutely nothing. And I want to bring him up because there are going to be people who tell you that he was a whole different player when he played for the Cowboys. Like he was just a monster, super consistent. So 2 of the 4 games where he had 115 or more receiving yards were on Oakland and half were on the Cowboys. And then 5 of his 9 games under 60 receiving yards with the Cowboys. So he's the same player. He is Amari Cooper. Doesn't matter what team he's on. He's Amari Cooper. He is boom bust. So don't let anyone tell you that it's all boom on the Cowboys. No, he's still that type of player. Outside of these elite weapons, I'm going to talk about 4. We got 4 guys in this list. So 3 of them kind of come in the mid-range. One is a little bit later. These are all guys I love in both season long and in best ball, but specifically in best ball. So the next one is Sammy Watkins, and 55% of his career games are under 50 receiving yards. On the Chiefs last season, he was held under 65 receiving yards in 60% of his games in just 2 weeks, over 80 receiving yards. However, you're saying, well, why would I draft a man with these numbers? Hill's future is unclear, and he battled injuries for a large portion of last season, and to be honest, a large portion of his career. But when he was healthy in the playoffs, he put together 2 solid weeks, and he's still 26. If Sammy Watkins, if I told you right now, or you told me right now, whatever way you want to word this, that he was going to play all games, or maybe I'm going to tell you right now he's going to miss 2 weeks. Sammy Watkins will miss 2 weeks this year. You're targeting him in every single league. He's tethered to Patrick Mahomes in a fantastic offense, and he has a very elite skill set. So I want someone like that because he's going to help me win a few weeks in best ball. Another guy I love, and actually someone I really love in any format, is Robbie Anderson. We talked about him a lot last season. He had a disappointing year from like a total perspective, but a lot of that can be attributed to, you know, who was playing quarterback for the Jets last season. And Sam Darnold was kind of hurt for a little bit of the year. You know, then he was starting out for a little bit. They had different volume. The volume kind of changed a lot throughout the season, but he's also 26. Robbie Anderson and Sammy Watkins, both just 26 years old. And he finished the season strong. 16.8 fantasy points per game over the last 5 weeks. And that coincided exactly with the return of Sam Darnold. Remember, Sam Darnold hurt his ankle like midway through the season. When he returned, Robbie Anderson started to put together some nice weeks. I believe in Sam Darnold's talent. Now, you might not. And if you don't, then don't draft Robbie Anderson. But I do believe in Sam Darnold's talent. And I'm higher on this offense than most. The Jets did not sign anyone that can challenge Robbie Anderson on the outside. So he's set up to have, if not a huge season, a few huge weeks. That's exactly the type of player Robbie Anderson is. He's the guy who can get you 3 receptions, but for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's what I want in best ball. Another guy who's basically the same mold, but probably a little bit safer, just because we're more secure in knowing that his quarterback is good, is Will Fuller. Will Fuller is the perfect best ball pick. He has over 100 receiving yards or 2 touchdowns in over a quarter of his career games. But, like Sammy Watkins, he's also under 50 receiving yards in 61% of his games. He has suffered a decent amount of injuries, but he has week winning upside. So I really like Will Fuller, not only because he might seem like a risky pick week to week. You know, I talk about the 50 receiving yards or under in 61% of his games, but he's still early in his career. And I think that having him with Hopkins and Kiki Kuti, it's a really good passing offense. I think he's set up to have a few really big weeks. So the last wide receiver that we're going to talk about is my boy Nikhil Harry. You guys know I'm a Patriots fan. I like Nikhil Harry. Now, as some of you do know, we're going to have projections this season, and I'm building them out right now. They're not ready yet, but I'm starting with the Patriots, and I have the Patriots fully built out as of right now. Nikhil Harry, my initial projections, is projected for about 61 receptions, a little under 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Now, when you look at that, that might only finish as low-end wide receiver 2 to high-end wide receiver 3 numbers depending on the season. But it's on the Patriots. That means that he's going to have some big weeks. He's going to have some weeks where he doesn't do much, but he absolutely could have 102 touchdowns, 2 different weeks this season. And when you're getting someone like that in the later rounds, that's really valuable. And I also say this is a projection. This isn't set in stone. And while I'd like to think my projections are going to be really good this season, things can change. So if he's out there getting a ton of targets each week, I mean, his touchdowns could go up to 10, 11, 12 touchdowns. They don't have Gronk anymore, so they've got to throw touchdowns to someone, and there's only so many that Julian Edelman and Bruce Ellington can catch. So I really like his opportunity, and he's not coming at an expensive price tag. Let's move on to running backs. And I said earlier, but I want to reiterate, every single running back in the top 20 ADP is viable in best ball. You're just looking for a dude that has good volume. Looking for a guy that can get a lot of receptions, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of rushing yards, everything. You want a ton of volume. And that's basically what all of the top 20 have. So I want to talk about them. I'm going to talk about, five running backs. We're going to start off with Myles Sanders. Now, Sanders, if you don't know, is the Eagles' second round rookie running back. And he has a great athletic profile, and will be running behind last season's 6th ranked run blocking offensive line. He is now easily the best running back on the roster, and the Eagles are a smart organization, so I expect them to see that, and I expect them to have drafted him because they know that. So he's going to have some big weeks. The nature of Philly is such that he's also going to have some down weeks. He's going to have some weeks where in season long you're a little bit disappointed because he's not getting a ton of volume, but they're going to score a lot of points. So he's going to have high touchdown upside, but he's really just got pretty good volume upside week to week. So I like him definitely for where he's going in drafts right now. James White, same thing. You're just targeting running backs on good offenses that have a path to a lot of points. And we saw James White last season. We saw his path to a lot of points come true. Double-digit fantasy points in 12 of 15 weeks last season. That's crazy. Double-digit fantasy points in 12 of 15 weeks last season. 24 or more points in a third of his games last year. Patriots may have drafted a running back in the 3rd round, but Harris is more of a threat to Burkhead's job than White's job. So I'm not concerned about that signing taking anything away from White. Damian Harris is really just the Burkhead replacement. So James White has a ton of weekly upside, and he does also provide a good floor. So if the rest of your running backs bust, you do know that James White is going to be out there on 3rd down rolls. So even when he doesn't score 24 more points, he can still get you 12. And I know that's not what you're looking for, but it's not that he's coming at a cost of nothing or 30. He is a very good fantasy running back. 3rd running back, Darrel Henderson, and you're going to hear that name a ton. If you haven't heard it a ton already, just be prepared, because I can guarantee you this is the type of player that the industry is going to hype up. So he's not going to be going as late as he is right now in drafts, but this is the quintessential late round pick with massive upside. Henderson led the nation in both yards per carry and yards per carry after contact last season. 8.9 yards per carry, 6.1 yards per carry after contact. The Rams taking him in the 3rd round after already signing Malcolm Brown to a 2-year deal shows that they have at least some sort of concern over Gurley's knee. Now, whether it's massive concern or barely any concern, it's still concern. And if they have concern, you should have concern as a fantasy owner. Henderson is absolutely going to be used in at least some capacity, even if Gurley's 100%. So you say Gurley's 100%, this is not a 0 pick. He's still going to be out there sometimes because he's super explosive, and he's going to produce because this offense is really good. And if Gurley would go down, you have a running back 1, and you probably just won your league. Those are the type of picks you look for in the later rounds, where if something breaks their way, they win your league. Next running back, Latavius Murray. You guys have heard me say his name probably in every video at this point. I just love the price tag on him right now. For some reason, people don't think that he's the Ingram replacement. He is exactly the Ingram replacement, like probably to the exact amount of volume. And it's honestly a similar story to Henderson, except that Murray's going to have more volume each week, even if nothing breaks his way. They have come out and said, smartly, that they want to keep Kamara healthy. They don't want to give Kamara, 23 carries and 8 targets every single game. That's not what they want to do. They want him to be healthy for the playoffs because that's really all that matters. So I expect them to have the exact same amount of volume for Kamara each and every week that they have before. And what does that mean? Well, you take out Ingram, you put in Latavius Murray. It's that simple. He's going to have weeks when he scores multiple touchdowns this season. It's going to happen. And if Kamara gets hurt, this is another guy who just won your league. I mean, imagine a world. We don't want this world to happen because we never wish injuries. But imagine you take Latavius Murray in the middle rounds and Henderson in the later rounds, and Gurley and Kamara were to go down. I mean, you just have 2 top 5 running backs at that point that you got for not that much draft capital. So I love both of those picks. And the last guy to round this out is David Montgomery on the Bears. If you don't know, he was drafted by the Bears this season. The Bears gave Jordan Howard 250 plus carries in his first 3 seasons. And Dave Montgomery is better than Jordan Howard. And he's a threat in the receiving game. Mike Davis had some nice moments last season, but that was his first year over 250 rushing yards in his 4-year career. And he's honestly an extremely subpar athlete. So I know people were excited about Mike Davis just because you look at the depth chart and you're like, oh, look, there's no one else. Well, they probably saw that too. And that's why they drafted David Montgomery. So David Montgomery is going to take over as the lead back. He is going to have some role in the receiving game. Not a massive role because Tariq Cohen is still there. But if you essentially have here the upside of Jordan Howard plus more receptions. And if they gave Jordan Howard 250 plus carries in all season, plus 20 or more receptions, I mean, what do you think David Montgomery's going to have? It's going to be really good. So he's definitely an absolute steal in drafts right now. And I expect the Bears to be, a pretty solid offense this season. So the touchdown should be there. So that is the end of this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about we hit that like button? How about we subscribe if we're new? Thanks for watching.